or bad idea for the Clippers to deal for Russell Westbrook?
Well, first of all, to use my favorite Nick Wright word, I would be absolutely gobsmacked if this trade happened. All right. Number one, I've been told this by somebody close to the situation that is not going to happen. Number two, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Clippers. If I could get him with Kawhi and Paul George, you might think about it, but I don't know if that could even happen. But here's the deal. The problem with the Clippers, and I've said it many times before last year, was a lack of chemistry. Guys getting used to playing with one another on the court in what became a short and truncated season. And guys adjusting to new and different roles both on the court and off the court. We know that was all a problem. So why in the world would I bring in the greatest, biggest chemistry experiment in the league, the granddaddy of all chemistry experiments? I love Russell Westbrook. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but not only that, he will be an icon in the future because of his 3 triple-double seasons. However, Russ is so unique, so different, such an energetic player, he doesn't fit in. He comes in and everything changes. And the Clippers don't have to do that. They're not in that position where they need an overhaul. I mean, maybe if Brandon Marshall was the GM, I think he said weeks ago that he would blow it up. Maybe Brandon would do it. All they need are a few tweaks here and there, additions here and there, and that's not Russ. So, no, I do not like this. Oh, my God.
Okay.
I love it. That's exactly what they need.
Well, so here's the deal.
Go ahead,
The
Nick.
Clippers have 2 major problems. One is, in order to add a truly impactful star-level player, you have to trade Paul George. It's the only way to make the salaries work. So could you trade Paul George for Russ in something? Yeah, you probably could. I don't know if that gets you much closer. I would imagine the Clippers would love to get Drew Holiday. Could you get Drew Holiday and Jackson Hayes for Paul George? Probably. But if you're not trading Paul George, it's just going to be eating around the margins. You're not making any major systemic change. Here, though, is the other problem for the Clippers. Because they lost to the Nuggets, we are all saying, oh, it was chemistry. It was the way they collapsed at the end. The loss to the Nuggets prevented them from seeing in real time over a 7-game series that actually would have been a 5-game series against the Lakers what their real Achilles heel would have been and is going to be next year. A lack of size. So all these things, I know Kawhi Leonard gets to name the arena. He gets to pick when they practice, when the team flight goes. He also evidently gets to build the roster. And he wants high IQ players. I don't know if Russ technically qualifies as that. And he wants a floor general. That's great. You need someone who's 6'11", though, and you ain't got it. And you would have seen that had they played the Lakers. But they flamed out so spectacularly and so historically and so embarrassingly the round before, they didn't even get to see what their real problem is. So, no, you can't make the salaries work realistically, Wilds, unless you're trading Paul George. And I don't think trading Paul George for Russ makes you appreciably better. Yep. So I don't think this is their biggest need, and I don't think it's going to happen, Wilds.
Also, I don't think the Rockets want to do this. I think the Rockets are still closer to missing the playoffs than winning the championship. So I think they need to make a move, but I don't know if it just sending Russ to another team in the Western Conference makes any sense. Broussard, you brought up an interesting point about Russ being an icon. I think he's in the weird spot where he doesn't necessarily need to win a championship. I think Harden needs to win a championship. I'd like if CP3 won a championship, but for some reason, maybe just because he's such an electric player, Russ doesn't. The other half of this rumor was Russ to New York, and I think it'd be better if Russ just got the keys to the car, could drive it as fast as he want, could crash it into a few trees if he had to, which will happen, but do it in New York with the bright lights. So I think that's what he needs. That would be best for his legacy moving forward, not to championship chase.
A great point, Wilds. And I've said this. Look, when we think about Oscar Robertson, what's the first thing we think of? He averaged a triple-double for an entire season. It wasn't that, you know what, in 1971, he actually won the championship with Lou Alcindor, now, of course, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
I agree. It's the same thing with Russ. His legacy, unless triple-double seasons become commonplace, right? Unless Luka does it and maybe LeBron does it and other players start doing it here and there, his legacy is going to be, this guy was the only player ever to average 3 straight triple-double seasons. It's not going to be about any championship he wins later in his career. So I do agree with you there, although it might make sense for Houston to make this move because you're not winning it with Russ, and he's got 3 years, $132 million left on his deal. So they are wise to start looking around to see what they can get for him because they're built to play small ball. And now that Mike D'Antoni's not the coach, it's going to be tough to play the style that fits this roster.
Well, Chris, you're right. You got me down. You have me down pat. Like, look, this can absolutely work. And the reason why, because what we talked about, a month or two ago when those guys were still in the bubble, they need an attitude adjustment, and Russ can bring that. And a lot of times we say as players, oh, we don't listen to the media, we don't hear you. But there's one thing that we always hear, the thing that the media says over and over and over again. So what you talked about when it came to Russell Westbrook, of being that guy who comes in and just changing the entire environment, like he hears that, he knows that. Russ showed last year that he was trying to adapt, that he was trying to change. So with that being understood, Russ can absolutely come in here and be the guy that the Clippers need. Now, for me, the bigger question is not about Russell Westbrook. It's more about James Harden, because if you're talking about moving Westbrook, then who are you going to put next to James Harden? James Harden's not going to sit in Houston just to have a lame duck season. James Harden wants to win a championship. So to me, the conversation quickly shifts from Westbrook. If this is a real conversation, regardless of where he goes, it quickly shifts to what happens to James Harden.
Well, right now, that's why it's a rumor. There is another rumor out there. Another team out west apparently in the market for a point guard. The Phoenix Suns have reportedly discussed trading for the aforementioned Chris Paul from Oakland. An impressive 8-0. Broussard, let me send it back to you. That's a young team out there. How much would they benefit from adding a vet like Chris Paul?
This one I like. I think the Suns would benefit greatly if they could add Chris Paul. I think it'd be very similar to what happened with Oklahoma City. You know, he would be able to come in, he would increase their basketball IQ, he would bring a winning attitude and pedigree. He played for Coach Monty Williams once before in New Orleans, so there's chemistry there. He would help the young players develop without, and this is important, without getting in their way. He wouldn't hinder the growth and development and push to stardom of Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, just like he didn't do that with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Oklahoma City. Now, does this make them a contender in the West? No, not by a long shot. But it would make them one of those teams fighting for the 6th, 7th, or 8th seed in the Western Conference playoffs.
Yep.
And when you're a team that hasn't been to the postseason in 10 years, you'll take that. So I think this would be good if the Suns could do it.
Jeez.
It would be a franchise-changing move for the Suns because of Broussard's point that they haven't been to the playoffs since Devin Booker was in junior high school. But I have the flip side to this, which is because the Suns went 8-0 in the bubble, people are assigning them a level of expectation for this upcoming year that is not only unrealistic, it is an impossibility. Here's my first major NBA prediction for the coming season. Barring a change like this, the Suns are drawing dead to make the playoffs.
Sure.
People got to look at what the West actually is. You've got 6 teams that, again, barring injury, are locked into the playoffs. Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, Clippers, Utah, and who am I forgetting? An obvious one. Dallas, pardon me. I think Houston, James Harden's never missed the playoffs in his life. I think Houston is very close to being a lock. You then have another 7 teams that think they're going to be in. Minnesota doesn't have their pick next year. They think they're going to be in. Phoenix thinks they're going to be in. Sacramento, after getting into the bubble, thinks they're going to be in. Memphis obviously thinks they're going to be in. And I'm leaving teams out. The Phoenix, as presently constituted, is not good enough. But Wilds adding Chris and also allowing Ayton and Booker to learn the difference between statistically glamorous basketball and winning basketball in the final moments would be absolutely worth the tax of the late phase of his contract. So I would do this if there was any way to do this. If I were Phoenix, I would do it. But without it, this is a 32-win basketball team.
You think they
like
make
that
the playoffs,
statistic.
Nick, with Chris Paul, though?
I do.
Do they make it
do.
with Chris Paul?
I think they would make the play. I do, Wilds. Broussard, Wilds. I do think they'd make it with Chris Paul.
But nobody thinks they win a championship, right? No one. I don't think Chris Paul thinks they win a championship. Chris Paul's 35 and owed a bunch of money. And Broussard, like I said, I do think Chris Paul needs a ring. I think Chris Paul is getting a little bit of like Garnett territory. Like everybody would remember him as an all-time great player. But if you can get that one ring, we move you up into another stratosphere. And for those reasons, I only think there's 3 teams Chris Paul should be considering. 1, your Lakers, Knicks. 2, the Philadelphia 76ers. And 3, go to Milwaukee and win with Giannis. If those are the only teams I think he should be worried about and be thinking about. Now, I know he wants to be sort of close to home. That's an issue. He's got some family issues with Alfonso Ribeiro pretending to be his dad. So I know that's an issue. You want to be close because you got a fake dad in there screwing things up. So all things being said, I think the Lakers would be the best move, Brandon. But I think he should go after a ring in one of those 3 cities.
No, you're right. I absolutely love this for the Suns. I think Devin Booker is that good. I think with Chris Paul, call me the ultimate optimist. I think they can potentially get the 4 or 5 seed when you talk about the playoffs. But I don't love this for CP3. I want CP3 to win a championship. Wilds, I'm just like you. Milwaukee Bucks are sitting out there. That would be perfect for you. And the other team, which I think is the best team for him, is the Philadelphia 76ers. If he can find a way to get there, man, this will be an exciting NBA season. The East will be up for it will be up for grabs now, because right now I think the Nets